Hello, everyone. It's the Sky Priestess, and let's get into it. So, a couple of days ago, as I had shared and announced on my community page, I got into a very strange situation. Effectively, what had happened was we were driving back from somewhere, and I had this feeling. It was just a very, very strong feeling very quickly, and I just felt something was energetically just getting really, really, really compressed. So I immediately went straight flat out into protection mode. And then we realized seconds after that, the brakes had stopped working. So we're on the highway. And, Malaysian highways are pretty scary in the sense that people drive very, very fast and the brakes just give. So, I am doing everything I can in my power and calling for all the protection that I can manage. And somehow we manage 5 minutes on that highway before we get to a, could have been five, could have been 10, before we get the car to a rest stop and we can finally just, okay, we're in safety. So since then, I mean, it's not the worst accident I've been in. I've been in far worse, especially at the start of the Saturn and Capricorn transit. But it was different this time because the cats were in the car. So, naturally that, when your babies are with you and there's a situation of mortal danger, you react in a very different way. But it was a test. It was definitely a confirmation that we're still meant to be here. And that was what came through. Now, I have been talking about what happened on that date. That was the 11th of September in Tier 23 and so on and so forth. It's not like I'm holding out on you. It's just in the sense that there's so much going on. I have to focus my energies in one place. So one of the things that happened on that day, in alignment with many other things, was that Ixion, the energy of the Tyrant, was stationing direct. And as you know, for those of you who followed me long enough, I this year has been very, very transformative in that I've had to walk away from things that I had believed in, the people that I had believed in, and the backlash has been very real, has been very, very strong. But that's what happens when you walk away from very toxic dynamics. It doesn't happen without some kind of a challenge in some way or another. So, that's what happened then. And things kept happening after that. I mean, it's hard to talk about these things because someone's going to go, hey, you're imagining it, you're making this up. No, we got photographs. So the next day, what happened was, yet again, with the car, we get into it. And because, in this time, for some reason, we had not managed to find a single space to stay that's part of the oppression. And we're getting back in the car, and I just smelled this burning smell really, really quickly. And I just tell my brother, stop, 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 pull over now. And what then happens is three engine belts had simultaneously shifted in three different parts of the car, something like that. The mechanic had said that literally different parts of the car had moved around so that it was actually causing, a very strong burning smell and something else to burn. And that's the thing. We had just taken it to the mechanic the night before. So, and asked him to check everything to see if everything was indeed okay. So this had happened mysteriously within a span of a few hours. And then I was like, oh dear God. Okay. So we managed that. Everyone was safe. I have Batman like senses. I can see very clearly, I can hear things very well, and I can smell things. Very faint odors. And we caught that at the nick of time. Then we get to the new place, which this is hilarious. And I was thinking, should I say this? Should I not say this? So I'm going to say it anyway. So this is what I mean by psychic oppression and how it's so real. So we get to the new sofa bed. We get here, we sit down 10 minutes, and something literally bends the sofa, making it collapse. We sit down for 10 minutes. That is actually meant to be a straight line. I'm showing this on video because, again, people talk about, oh, I've had a bad day, or, oh, things happen, whatever's happening to you can't be that bad. No, we got photographs. So, there's been a constant focus of psychic oppression, constant focus, because the work that we're doing, well, the work that I'm doing and I'm hoping I'm generating with you out into the collective is something that challenges a lot of these structures, you know. And this is just a sample. This has been our lives for 8 months. This is just a sample. And no, it's not to do with any of the conventional bodies. None of the conventional bodies can actually explain any of this. So, apparently the video has cut out. I'm not at all surprised, but I'm going to keep this going because, let this be out there, in the sense that let this be heard, let this be seen. And of course there are people who will be like, oh well, it's because you didn't have faith, or it's because you're not coming from a heart-centered place, or it's because you have negative thoughts and patterns. Bullshit. Unless you actually walk that path, unless, when I'm working with someone, I'm not just working with them. Any one of you who's been in a deep session knows it. Everything comes out. Whatever is oppressing you, whatever your ancestors are doing, whatever's in your environment, everything comes out. So when you do that kind of work and you're not looking at it at a superficial level, you are going to piss people off. So for all of those people who try to victim blame, gaslight anyone going through this, fuck off. Because I'm not going to fall for that. The only thing that allows me to keep going as I do, in addition to the love of the family that I have around me, which is my brother and 2 cats, the only thing that keeps me going is absolute faith. And I was thinking, as I was like, should I say this? Should I not? Should I say this? Should I not? Because, it's, again, people are going to project on it, but I'm at a point where I really don't care. But this was what happened in that moment. Just whatchamacallit, just moments before the brakes failed. And the guy showed us it was something about a brake compressor, and it had just, cracked or something. And I just went in, and I basically just opened my heart as wide as I could, and I just called all of my guides in. And I very much work with the archangels. Not what Christianity did to them as part of an organized religion, but for whatever reason, my soul knew them when they came about. So I work with them. And they came, and I could actually literally see the protection that was offered. And I know it was there because there is no other way I could have survived it. And that was what happened. So this is the thing. Um, this isn't the only oppressive alignment, and I am not the only person in the world going through this. I've been hearing back from some of you, especially people and a cat named Frankie has come up to say hi. Hello, Frankie. Especially people who are going and facing and fighting similar structures of oppression in their life. They're also experiencing same things. Maybe not as dramatic, but that doesn't mean it's any less important. And it's the kind of energy that is really pushing people, but it's also out to try and destabilize people. A friend of mine, and I don't think she would mind me mentioning it, especially for this purpose, extraordinarily powerful facilitator, young, healthy, does all the right stuff. And, whatever was going on was trying to scare her by using literally her heart. And what I've been able to see is the level of oppression has, even when they can't get you, they're trying to project fear where there is no fear. So, and that's one of the things that I think everyone needs to remember at this time. And I'll talk about why this is a collective alignment coming up and not just something that's happening in my life. Um, when you are faced with that kind of situation, almost half of the power of whatever is going on is bound up in the fear-based response. So the moment your heart shrinks inwards, the moment your heart shrinks inwards, the moment your heart, contracts because it's going, oh my God, what's happening? That's the moment where you need to push back, no matter what is happening around you. car going out of control, metal just bending randomly in places that you're not even sitting the moment you get there, whatever it is, you have to come back to that point of focus. And that's the way you mitigate and go through the hardest journey and go through the harshest parts. So, this is the key lesson, if anything. And I've been talking about this in Tier 23. It is literally to work with this, with the heart. That is what ultimately protects you. Because if you do not go and face whatever you are facing from a space of absolute faith, that lack of faith can be turned against you. And I know that is the hardest thing to do in these times. But as you can see, I'm not talking from theory. I didn't read this in a book somewhere. Something didn't come down and tell me, yes, yes, you have to do this now. No, this is lived reality. So now let's talk about why, finally decided to talk about all of this and how it relates to everyone. Because like I said, this is not just me. People are dealing with this in every different way, in many different ways, in many different areas and avenues of their lives, some more directly than others. That's about it. So let's talk about it and let's get into what all of this BS is about. Coming up, I want to point out the fact that we are headed into the Virgo moon. And I know a lot of you are excited about it because, hey, Virgo is supposed to heal, Virgo is supposed to help you create boundaries, and so on and so forth. But this is what I have learned about astrology. You know, this the more we project on astrology, the less we know what's actually going on. So the more we project on a particular type of energy thinking in our minds, this is what it's going to be, the more we actually block ourselves off from the psychic vision and the psychic line of sight that is possible. Which is why, when I come across someone who has true sight and they go, but I want to learn astrology, and I'm going, don't muddy the water. If you've got it and you don't need it, don't do it. Just because you're already getting information that's not being filtered by the mental construct. And the only way astrology can be used in a way that doesn't fall into these categories of thought that actually block you from understanding what's going on is to look at even more astrology. So, if you've already got a direct line, direct source that is giving you that information, stick with it because that's what you need. So, what's going on today at 11 o'clock or 11 a.m. Universal Time is the new moon at 25 degrees of Virgo. So there's several important things with this new moon. So it's making a whole bunch of energies going up and down, so on and so forth. Now, the key things for me, at the very least, is that the Virgo new moon is opposite Borasisi, which I have talked about before. It is very much the energy that brings in the false light. And I've been seeing this as well in meditation. Lots of things trying to come in, lots of things trying to say, oh, yes, but I'm great, but I am the true path, but I am this, and I am that. And I'm just like, nope, 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 nope. Now, the reason I say this is because if something is actually real, if something comes from a place of a light that is so true and so powerful that moves your heart in alignment with spirit, it doesn't need a calling card. It doesn't need to come up to you to convince you that it is the path and it is the truth and it is the whatnot. Which is why I tried my best. I tried my hardest. But I realized organized religion would never work for me because I can't work with anything that has that kind of a sales pitch. So whether it be, your personal journey with truth, even if it's a political truth, even if it's a spiritual truth, it is, it is the kind of energy that ultimately asks us to look at what truly moves your spirit. So look at what moves your spirit, not what sounds good. You don't need to know it, like a child in the sense, when you tell a child a lie, unless that child has already been blocked off from their natural psychic senses, the kid's going to be like, really? And they might not know what you were going to do. They might not know what you were going to say. They might not know whether or not what you're saying is true, but there is a certain vibration of truth truth that we innately can access. One of you were asking me how, how do we actually manage to discern through things, and you don't do it at a mental level. There are too many extremely clever people in the world that know how to justify anything through words. I could have been one of those very clever people, but I just said, nope, that's not my path. So listen to what comes up and see, feel through your heart, through your senses, if that is actually the path you want to take. No matter how glossy it is, no matter how powerful it sounds, no matter how many big names come to you in a meditation, most of the time these are illusions. What most people do not tell you is that spirituality is something that you need to go through with experience, because there are many copies of divine energies or energies that were once divine. And people who do not have the right training, the right exposure, the right teaching, or simply the experience will not be able to tell them apart. That is effectively why and how the false light works. So, this is the kind of energy where if you're not sure, don't be so eager to jump into it just because it sounds good, because that will always kick you in the pants eventually. And it's so important for us to be thinking about our paths of service and who and what we work with today, especially because this new moon trines Saturn. So it's very, very, very powerful. And on top of all of that, opposite the false light, trine the Saturn and square the galactic center, which is very much our relationship with established parts of truths and teachings and traditions and whatnot. Some of these will work for some of you, and some of you will just be like, you're outdated, go home. And so you got to be very careful in not giving into what someone else's idea of your path needs to be. So, what I would say coming up next, and that's just the one, the first dangly, shiny hook. The second really big alignment that I want all of you to be aware of is the fact that we're going to be having a grand fire trine on the 21st of September. I would say put 20th, 21st, 22nd of September as kind of watch days. Now, I do not like this trine one bit, because it is Thereus the Hunter Stalker at 27 Leo, trine the Galactic Center at 27 Sagittarius, trine Mars at 27 Aries, and remembering that Ixion is very close to the Galactic Center to begin with, meaning Ixion the Tyrant is also squaring this new moon in Virgo. But long story short, the 21st of September is where we can also see an escalation in collective violence, aggression, chaos, generally speaking, discord. That's a time where people who are very, very ungrounded are going to want to lash out. So, this is the kind of energy where you absolutely want to make sure that if you are someone like me, like many others who are pushing through ancestral dynamics that are toxic and know your ancestors are not always great, anyone who tells you that needs to go and think about it again. Sometimes your ancestors are people who have made deals with all kinds of other stuff, and you're holding the shit end of the stick at the very end of it. People who are working through oppressive ancestral dynamics, people who are working through and pushing through collective structures that what's the word? Collective structures that are no longer in alignment with this planet. People who are actually dealing with and facing, what that which is pushing into all of us at a certain level. This is a time where you need to just stay present, stay aware, and keep that focus centered on the heart. Now, if you are doing any kind of very, physical activism in public spaces, you need to have a greater sense of awareness of what is around you. I am not going to say that violence is the way to facilitate social change, but some people believe that, and I can understand why. But the 21st of September is a very, very volatile time. You need to look at what is happening around you, what's happening with your kids, your pets, your loved ones, what is happening with your own heart. Because remember, no matter what comes your way, the way you respond from it or respond to it from what is happening in your heart center will determine the efficiency of whatever attack is happening. And for people who are like, oh no, it's all love and light, please replay this video from the beginning and look at that sofa that went in two. It's a new sofa. This is all physical. So now, those are the two dates. I mean, there are other things that are happening, but those are the two key dates that I felt amiss. That if I hadn't said anything, I would have been like, no, 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 no. You got to do something. So the 17th and the 21st. So around those times, heightened caution, the 17th being today, of course, around those times, don't take any unnecessary risks. Remember that you don't have to be bloodying and brutalizing yourself to be a warrior. Peace can be achieved through different means. You don't have to respond to those triggers that want to push you into these heightened states of escalation and violence. That does not work either. Some of you are doing this at the social level, some of you may be seeing this in interpersonal dynamics. And yeah, those are the two key dates that I wanted to tell you about. Now, that's not to say that everything is going to be terribly bad till then, but for a lot of you, especially in the United States, it already is. I mean, one part of your coast is the skies are red, absolutely red. I think there's several hurricanes in the Atlantic right now, and I was thinking about whether or not to talk about this, but I had such a powerful reaction, in the sense that, like an emotional reaction to what I read about with respect to what's happening with the ICE facility in Georgia right now. An African American nurse has come out as a whistleblower, where they have found, as part of this facility, there's a doctor performing, illegal hysterectomies on women, and that's basically flat out, that's horrific. And that is the kind of stealing of creative energy and life force that Thereus and Ixion are absolutely capable of doing. And that is the kind of energy which if you wanted a physical manifestation of what that looks like, it's very much what's happening in terms of forced sterilization, in ICE, and of course that's already been happening in China with its minorities. But that information is breaking out into the collective. So again, these are not just things floating in the ethers; they take form. That's why it is so important to look at what is the energy you are letting in at this time. So now let's have a quick look at comments. I know that this has been a very heavy video, but not every video can be light and fluffy because the skies are not always light and fluffy. And I see both the cats are in meditation pose because they're holding space. So let's have a look at the crowd and see who's here. All right. Hello, everyone. I'm not going to go through the daily hellos today. I'm actually fairly tired, but I am just going to acknowledge the fact that all of you are here. And I'm going to just see if there's any major questions that come up from this video. Let's see. Any major questions? Hang on. Okay, here we go. Yep, I would say that's about it. I send all of you love, and for those of you who are just tuning in, oh, hang on. Wait. Questions have suddenly come up. All right. We'll go through these questions, but please do keep it focused. I am quite tired today. So keep it focused and let's get to it. So, Black Action Pact, which is a name that I love, and of course the associated cat. What strategies can we do to protect our energy? Well, it depends on the level of oppression that's targeted at you. Some people have natural protection. Sometimes that makes them assholes. Because if you've never experienced this kind of violence, you will not know how to empathize. And sometimes people who have protection actually go forwards into the world and offer shelter to those who don't have that natural protection. That's not because they're better people. It's not. Sometimes their ancestors just were very devout, or sometimes they have a particular protection to do a particular job in the world. So first of all, the answer to that question depends on what level of protection you have inherited. And sometimes, like I said, your ancestors can protect you. Sometimes they're the people who can actually be opening you up to even more bullshit. So, let's see. So the first question is, like I said, how to protect your energy. So part one of that answer is depends on your natural level of protection. So for someone who has already got a lot of benevolent beings around them because they're doing certain things in the world, keep doing what you're doing, extend that space of protection to others. If you're someone who literally cannot step out of the house without breaking something, that's when you can't be, unless you are going to go into the spiritual path, you can't be chanting and praying the entire day. There are some days that we have had to do that. But I would say the most important thing is to manage your emotions. Sometimes when you face an intense situation, like I said, fear is the first thing that grips you. And the moment the fear enters you is when the moment the negativity can affect you. So it is literally less about, unless you are able to manage that in that response, the first thing I would actually say is manage your emotions. I know it's not esoteric, I know it's not this crystal or this gemstone, because at the end of the day, what I have found is more than any external tool, it has been my emotions that have given me the greatest ability to then call in for protections. Manage your emotion, call in benevolent beings whom you know are actually going to have your back. And that's going to be different for everyone. I'm not going to sell you what I do because that works for me. You got to find out who works in alignment with protection for you. So that's my answer to question one. Let's see. Uh, 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 mm, okay, I'm just taking the questions that I feel are very relevant to this discussion. Mel Lawrence asked children in public system how to help. That is a very good question, and they are probably the kids who. And thank you for the question. They are probably one of the groups who are most affected by everything that's happening. Um, I think what you would do is use, whether it's Reiki or some other type of energetic practice, you can create something like a energetic safety net for those kids whose souls, whose consciousness are willing to accept them. But that will take more than one person. That will take several Reiki practitioners who have had, lots of practice and experience providing, creating energetic structures at a distance. So unless you have that level of expertise, the best you can do is send up a prayer, because unless you can actually be there to protect them, it is distance energetic work and having the power to do that. Tamilan asks, I live with someone who has mental health issues which can make them violent. Suggestions? Don't live with them, honestly, at this time. If you, I would say that it is more important for you to be focusing on self protection. The only real exception is a child. If it is an adult who is responsible for their actions, you need to find safety for yourself, because you cannot manage someone who is already imbalanced and who will be affected heavily during these alignments. Let's see. Okay. Let me see what else has come up. Mm, yep. I'd say those are the most important questions with respect to what we are discussing today. Remember, it is not about having the answers up here. It really isn't. At the end of the day, if you are not finding the answers within your own heart, within your own consciousness, within your own being, and you keep looking outside, you're going to stay looking outside. Everything that you need is already inside here. That's about it. So take care. Very many blessings. Keep yourself safe. There are no need for you to play hero, rescuer, avenger, whatever right now. It's not going to do anything. Stay safe. Keep that which is sacred in you and those who are vulnerable around you as protected as possible. And yeah, that's about it. Cha cha for now. Bye bye.